This is a piece of cake. Little camping trip with the boys? Bring it on, baby. I'm all over it. Oh yeah, flag football? Coach Groeschel is what they call me. Oh yeah, little assignment? No big deal. I can handle it. I'll adjust that a little bit. Thank you. Baseball, you want me to back cleanup? Oh yeah, have you seen me hit? Center field, watch my wheels. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, out of town trip? Yeah, I think I can do it because I can handle it. I am the Groesch. Oh yeah, let's play some ball. Yeah, let's go to the game. Oh yeah, gotta get the girls to dance. Got the dance back. When am I gonna get that done? But I can handle it all, thank you. So I can watch the game from the 95th row. Man, it's getting a little bit harder, but good thing go to Groesch. You are to Groesch. Adjust that a little bit. Whew, shopping trip? I hate shopping. Sometimes you gotta do it. Hang in there. Oh, another assignment at work. Well, how do they think I can handle everything? But I gotta play with my daughter sometime. Stuff that. I know God won't give me more than I can handle. And it just ticks me off sometimes the way people want to take advantage of you, but it's just stay focused. You can do it. You can, oh, great. You want me to come over for dinner? Sure, I'll be there. Dinner? I don't have time for dinner. Could I get a little help over here? I mean, I can do it. Don't give up. Focus. Focus. You can do it all. God won't give you more than you can handle. Hey, a little help over here would be nice, somebody. Focus. Oh, no. That was not good. Watch it. Oh, no. Oh.
We all have been there, haven't we? We think to ourselves, I can handle it. I can handle it all. But the truth is that sometimes we get overwhelmed. Sometimes we get so busy, we get so consumed with the things in our lives that we literally cannot get anything accomplished. We get so busy that we're out of it. What I mean by that is that we're out of shape physically. We're out of shape. Thank you, brother. We're out of shape physically because we're so busy doing the things that we do that we don't take time to rest. We don't take time to eat the right things. We don't take time to exercise. We don't give our bodies the type of things that they need. And so my first point is that we are out of shape physically. The second point that I want to make here is that we're out of sorts emotionally. When we lay down to rest at night, many of us cannot turn our mind off. You know what I mean? Our mind is still going, and we're thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow. We're thinking about what we've got to get accomplished this week. We've got to think about what our goals are for this week. And all of these things that are going on in our mind keep us from being able to emotionally handle any kind of a crisis that might come up. When you're so busy that you're out of it, then you're out of touch relationally. Come on. You're out of touch relationally. You know what I'm talking about? You're there, but you're really not there. You're there physically. I can tell you that I've been this way, and sometimes Renee will say, do you agree? And I'm going, huh? Yeah, I agree. And I have no clue what she's asking. She's been talking for the last 10 minutes, and I'm thinking about something else. Because I'm there, but I'm not there. I'm out of touch relationally. And the last thing that I see, that when you're so busy you're out of it, that you're out of order spiritually. And this may be the biggest one of all. You're out of order spiritually. Your life is so busy with the things of life that you might be able to make it to church once or twice a week. A month, once or twice a month, but you don't have any time for any additional spiritual activities. Your life is so jammed full of stuff that you literally have no time to squeeze anything else in that might be significant for you, for your spiritual growth. You're out of order spiritually. And I will tell you that you can be so busy and so productive that you lose focus on what's really important in your life. And when we get that way, you know what I think it's time for? It's time for a come to Jesus meeting. There you go. Time for a come to Jesus meeting. Our scripture passage is Matthew chapter 11. This is Jesus speaking. And he says, "Come to me," come to Jesus, "all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now, how many in here don't know what a yoke is? Raise your hand if you don't know what a yoke is. Okay? Well, that'll save us some time. I don't have to explain that. God says that, when two animals are yoked together, one does a lot of the pulling, and the other one, the yoke is designed so they'll both pull equally. But a lot of times, one will pull more than the other. One will kind of hold back and let the other one do it. God says, look, when I put my yoke upon you, I'll do the heavy pulling. And you can be that one that kind of hangs back a little bit. You can rest in me. That is a powerful picture. Renee and I had the privilege of going to Alaska here last month for our 40th wedding anniversary. We went on a cruise. And we got an opportunity to go to a musher camp. A musher camp is where they train the dogs for the Iditarod, which is that big race that takes place every winter in Alaska. It's miles and miles and miles, and it's a race. It's a competition between mushers, people who run these dog sleds from one point miles away to another point over a period of time. And so we went to this camp where they trained these Alaskan Huskies. They weren't the Huskies that I've always come to know. They were kind of skinny dogs. To be honest with you, they were kind of skinny. They kind of looked like mutts. But you know what? They put 16 of these dogs together. And guess what? None of the dogs have to pull hard. They just have to run. And because all 16 are running together in the same direction, then it's not a heavy burden on any one of the dogs. And it was amazing. These dogs, not only did they do it, but they loved to do it. When we got out there, as soon as they saw somebody coming to sit in the sled, they were so excited they start barking and they can't wait to get running because it's in their nature to run. They've been bred and trained to do that. And I will tell you that God has created us and bred within our nature to run the race that is set before us. But we can't do it if we feel like we're carrying all the weight of the world and we're having to do this by ourselves. But God says, look, come to me, all ye who are weary, and I will give you rest. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Folks, we don't have to do it all. You can't handle it all. Up there on our thing, we've lined out the word can and we've written the word can. Because the reality is you can try all you want, but you can't handle it on your own. Amen. You cannot do it on your own. You can be busy and you can be productive without being hurried. But we don't know how to slow down. We have too many things to do. I want you to be honest with me here. I want you, by show of hands. How many of you get frustrated when you get behind somebody that's slow. All right, look around you. Everybody look around. Keep your hands up. Everybody look around. That right there is an indication that you're too busy. Okay? We're all, guess what? I saw the hands, okay? You can't deny it. We're all too busy. If you can't stand behind somebody in line and give them a few minutes to take care of their business at Walmart, you're too busy. You're too busy. If you can't get on the road and slow down for that car that's not doing the speed limit, instead of worrying about how soon you can get around them because they're going too slow, you're too busy. You're too busy. You see, you have too many things that you have to do, and you cannot handle them all. I love this illustration from the Old Testament. You see, Moses was leading the people of Israel out of slavery and to the promised land. And these were millions of people that were wandering in the desert. And God had appointed one man. God had appointed one man, his name was Moses, to lead these people out of the wilderness. And every time something would even start to go wrong, the people of Israel began to grumble. They were the most grumbling people that ever lived on the earth. And they would complain about everything. You know, if the sun was too hot, they would complain about the heat. If it was too cold, they would complain about the cold. If there was a little lack of water, they would just, why did you take us out here into the wilderness to die? And Moses was placed in charge of this grumbling group of millions of people, literally more than 1 million people. Can you imagine the logistics of having to move 1 million people across the wilderness without trucks, without heavy equipment? They basically had LPCs. You know what LPCs are, right? No. Leather personnel carriers. They had shoes. They had sandals. That's what they had. That's what they did. They walked. Some of them had beast of burdens, but most of them walked. And Moses' father-in-law came to him in Exodus 18, verses 17 and 18, and he says this, I love this. He says, what you are doing is not good. Now, before we move on, I want you to know that when you're trying your best, the one thing you don't want to hear is what you're doing is not good. We don't want to hear that because what else can I do? I'm working as hard as I can. I'm struggling as hard as I can. I'm doing everything that I can do. And Moses' father-in-law, older than him clearly, says, what you are doing is not good. But then listen to what he says. This is pretty obvious. He says, you and the people with you will certainly wear yourselves out, for the thing is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it alone. So what I would tell you is that if you have too many things to do, then this is point number one. Some things need to be shared. Some things need to be shared. Okay? And Moses' father-in-law said, you can't do this on your own. You need some help. You need to get some people to help you with this burden that you're carrying all alone. And in fact, the Apostle Paul tells us in the New Testament, in Galatians 6:2, he says to bear one another's burdens. What does that mean? Remember that yoke that's easy, the burden that's light? We need to bear one another's burdens. That means we can't carry it all alone inside of us. If you try to do this all by yourself and carry it all by yourself without your brothers and sisters in Christ, I have people that tell me, Pastor, I can just sit in my living room and I can watch TBN on television, or what is that one? Trinity Broadcasting Network on television. I don't need to go to church. Well, the truth is Trinity Broadcasting Network could care less what's going on in your life. Oh, they might look like they care as long as you send them some money, but the truth is they really could care less. The point is that you need brothers and sisters in Christ so that when you're getting weighed down and heavy laden, then you can get somebody else to help you with that struggle. There was a point in the wilderness where Moses was told to raise his staff up in the air. And as long as he kept his arms up, wasn't Moses, was it? Sorry. As long as he kept his arms up, then the Israelites would win. But he got tired. I want you to try that. Keep it up for hours and hours. You can't do it. And so God brought along two guys. You know what their names were? They were called Aaron and Hur, to help hold his arms up so that he wouldn't have to carry that burden alone. The point here is that we have been given each other. I want you to look around. Everybody turn and look around. Look at the people behind you. Look around your left and right and all that stuff. Okay? These are the people that God has given you in order for you to be able to handle the things that you need to handle in life. We need to bear one another's burdens. That's what that book, the verse in Galatians tells us. We need to bear one another's burdens. And it says if we do that, that we will fulfill the law of Christ. What that means is that God gave us each other to do that. God gave us Christ so that we wouldn't have to carry the burden of sin. He took the burden of sin off of us, and He gives us each other to get through life so that we don't have to go through life alone, struggling in loneliness and aloneness, carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. We can bear one another's burdens. Look, if you're carrying something heavy and somebody comes along beside you and they say, let me help you with that, all of a sudden the weight is distributed between two. If three people come, it's distributed between three, and all of a sudden that thing that seemed almost impossible for you to carry now is not a problem. So, some things need to be shared. The second thing that I would tell you, though, is that some things need to be stopped. Now, this is a hard pill for us to swallow in our society. Some things need to be stopped. And I will tell you that in our technological age, there are a ton of things that chip away and take away from our time that we waste time doing. We waste time doing these things. And so then when we're in a crunch, when we need to do something, we don't have enough time to do it. But the truth is that you have exactly the same amount of time as everybody else in the world. You don't have any more or any less time. You have 24 hours a day. Okay? And so what's important here is that you look at what you're doing, look at what the demands are on your life, and then say, what is important? Set some priorities. Everything can't be important. Everything cannot be top priority in your life. And so you've got to set priorities and say, okay, this is going to be first in my life. As a pastor, I would hope that you would put God in that position. That means that God's going to be first and foremost in my life, and the things of God are going to be right up there with that. My worship of God, my love for God, my desire to know God, that means reading the Bible and praying and studying the Word of God and all of those things, fellowshipping with other Christians, needs to be way up there on the list. And then your family comes next. Your family's important. Your family is important. God gave you your husband or wife, and He gave you your children, and you have a responsibility to raise those children, and you can't do that if you're so overwhelmed that you can't hardly breathe. And so they come second. And then the rest of the world comes third. All of that other stuff comes next. If you put any of those things out of order and put something above God, guess what? You've just created an idol. You've just created an idol. Because that's what it is. When we put something above God, listen, I'm going to get real here. We've had people in our church who have come to me and said, okay, Pastor, now, it's soccer season, and that means that we're not going to be around much because our kids are going to be playing soccer on Sunday, and so we will see you again at the end of soccer season. And I'm saying, you mean the idol soccer? I understand that the leagues play on Sunday. So you can choose to accept that and take your kids out of church and by example, take them to the soccer game and say, what you're saying to your kids when you do that is, soccer is more important than the things of God. I mean, that's what you're saying. Let's just get real. If you came here to feel good, I'm going to tell you the truth. If playing soccer comes before the things of God, then you need to let go of soccer. If your kids playing soccer comes before you being an example of taking your kids to church and showing them as an adult what a Christian looks like, going there in time to do the Bible study, not just showing up on Sunday at 10:15, 10:29, or 10:39, to sit in the pew and listen to music and the preacher, but I mean you're really getting involved in it, and your children see you doing that. They see you worshiping. They see you studying the Bible. Guess what? More things are caught than are taught. They're going to see you do it, and then they're going to want to do it themselves, because your children, whether you like it or not, mimic you. If you don't believe that, I can tell you how many times I've heard my words coming out of my kid's mouth. Good words and bad words coming out of my kid's mouth. Okay? Good things and bad things. Because we don't realize how much the kids are watching us. And so we've got to set the priorities in our life. So some things need to be stopped. What are the priorities in your life? I can't decide that for you, but you need to decide it, and you need to decide it soon. Luke 10, 41 to 42 is a story of Mary and Martha. And you know the story. Mary is Martha's sister, and they find out that Jesus is going to come to their house. And Martha is busy getting the house cleaned and getting the food prepared and all of that stuff. And when Jesus arrives, Martha's out in the kitchen trying to do the last-minute fixing of the food. And Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus as he's teaching. And Martha comes out and scolds Mary and says, you need to come in this kitchen and you need to help me prepare this meal. And Jesus looks at Martha and he says these words, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. And Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Amen. See, this is kind of what we talked about last week. This is the difference between doing what is expected versus doing what is right. And the difference between doing what is expected and doing what is right is, who's watching? If we're doing what's expected because the world is watching versus doing what is right because God is watching, then we need to choose to do what's right and not simply what's expected. So some things need to be stopped. Psalm 46:10, the first part of that says, be still. A little uncomfortable, isn't it? Be still and know that I am God. The word's still there. The word's still there is the word rapha. It means to slacken, to allow to sink, to let drop. The modern translation of this is simply drop it. Drop it. Be still. When my wife was teaching, there was a time in her class, it was called DEAR time. And DEAR was an acronym. It said, drop everything and read. Sometimes we need to drop everything and just spend time with God. How can we hear the voice of God when we're so busy? We have no time to stop and listen. The word says, be still and know that I am God. The third thing, before we go to that, the last point of this is that everybody in this room probably has a to-do list, okay? Somebody calls them, sometimes they're called honey-do list, sometimes they're things to-do list, whatever. Well, you know, I'm proposing that every one of us start a to-don't list. A to-don't list. Because there's some things in your life that you need to stop doing, and so you need to start that list, and these are some things that you don't need to be doing anymore. So start a to-don't list. Okay? What is it you need to cut out in order to carve out time for you to hear God speaking to you? In order for you to have time to sit down without being rushed, without trying to beat the clock. Okay, I think I have like 3.5 minutes. I think I can get my Bible reading in for today. Let me do it quickly, and maybe the phone will ring in the middle of that, and then you never get back to it. Maybe there's some things that you need to do, like leave the phone off. We had kids of our own, and we're married, and the only phone we had at that time was the house phone. And guess what? We would travel from point A to point B, cross country, and we would be out of communication for 7 or 8 hours. God forbid! God forbid! What would we do if we got stopped on the side of the road? It never happened before we had cell phones. Nobody ever broke down on the side of the road. It never happened. It never happened, I guess, because people didn't die. We didn't hear people dying from breaking down on the side of the road without a cell phone when they didn't exist yet. You know? So we got our phone, we'd wait for a police car to come by, we did something. But guess what? We didn't answer the phone every time it rang. I was in my office earlier talking to a couple of men before the sermon started, and I admitted to them that when I prepare a sermon, about 60% of the sermon I have to deal with my own self before I can present it to you, because I'm preaching to myself. Because my wife will tell you that when that phone rings, no matter what's going on, my eyes are immediately taken from what I'm looking at to what's there, who's on the phone. So much so that now I don't even have to touch the phone because it comes onto my watch. I can actually talk on my watch. Dick Tracy, eat your heart out, man. I can do it. But sometimes I have to turn that off. Sometimes I have to leave the phone in the other room. Because if I don't, then the world will take over. Point number 3. I think we got that one. Everything, some things need to be shared, some things need to be stopped, but everything needs to be, this is an important one, everything needs to be surrendered. What does that mean? Everything needs to be surrendered means that everything that we have, everything that we do, everything that we are, need to be surrendered to God. Now this is easy to talk about, but it's not so easy to do. Okay? We can give lip service, we can pay lip service to this, because we can say, okay, God, I'm going to give you my time. I'm going to give you my career. I'm going to give you my future. I'm going to give you my financial security. I'm going to give you my family. Let me borrow your Bible for a second. But you know what? We say that. We say that. And we say, God, I'm going to surrender it to you. God, I want you to take it away from me. Stand up, brother. Let me do this with you. God, I'm going to give it to you. I want you to take it, and I want it to be yours. Go ahead, take it. Come on, God. You got it. I'm giving it to you. Seriously, God, I want you to have it. I want it to be yours. You see what we do? Don't we do that? Let me give Renee your Bible. You see that? We don't let go of it. I've told you this before, but I'm going to use it again because it's a great illustration. How many of you, besides me and Joe, fly helicopters? Have flown helicopters, okay? Okay, nobody else, okay. There are 2 pilots in the helicopter, but you know what? Only one can fly the plane. Helicopter, not a plane. Only one of you can fly the plane at the helicopter at the time. If both of you try to get on there and try to fly it, guess what? You're going to crash because each of you have an idea which way to go. And so the way that it's done in military aviation, I don't know how it's done in the civilian world when there are 2 pilots, but the way it's done in the military is something called positive transfer of control. Let's do it, Joe. You have the controls. You have the controls. But there's one other step that has to be done before that transfer takes place. And what is that? then if you've transferred it to the other guy, you've got to take your hands off. Okay? So, let's do this. All of it has to be surrendered. So we say to God, using that illustration again, okay, God, I'm giving this to you. You have it, God. And God says, I've got it. And you say, you have it, God. But the last step in this is the thing that we don't want to do. We've got to let go of it. We don't want to let go of it. And guess what? If you do that in a helicopter, you're going to crash. If you give the controls to the other guy and you keep one of them yourself, you're going to be fighting each other, trying to get to the ground or get to wherever you're going. But if you let go of it and let the other person fly the aircraft, then you're going to have a safe landing. I see that sign on people's bumper sticker and stuff on their car. God is my co-pilot. If God is your co-pilot, you need to change seats. If God is your co-pilot, you need to change seats because you are not the one in charge. And if you're the one in charge, you're the least qualified to fly the airplane. God is the most qualified. So if I were you, I would do a positive transfer of controls immediately and let God be the pilot. Amen. Everything needs to be surrendered. Everything needs to be surrendered. Psalm 62:1 says, my soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from Him. I love this one. Psalm 55:22. This may be some of you, your favorite verses, one of my favorite verses in the Bible. Look at this one. It says, cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. That word cast is a Hebrew word shalach. It means to cast, hurl, or throw. It says, cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous be shaken. We've got to give it to Him. We've got to surrender it to Him. And then we need to let go of it. Because He can handle it way better than you and I can handle it anyway. You see, what we need in our lives is some kind of a radical change to take place. Listen, it needs to be a radical change because if there was just a little tweaking that needed to be done, you'd have done that a long time ago. But the truth is that you're living this life. Everybody raised your hand when I said you get frustrated when you get behind somebody that's slow in the line or on the road. You're too busy. And so a radical change needs to take place in each of our lives, and I'm saying our because it includes me. And it can only happen when we surrender it to Christ. So, my question to you, what radical change do you
to boost its interest rates up to 18% as it battles against financial collapse. The move is designed to stabilize the
and their economic messages to win the support of undecided voters.
if one more